Friday the 10th of January 2025. It's relatively frosty. I'm out doing odd jobs. Grand day for getting things done. It's not that cold either. I just want to dwell a little bit this because we're in Trump's season at the moment, and when he takes over office I'll hardly have so much to say. It could be rather bland or boring what he does, I don't know. I've always said he's a bit of a character, but I've watched his moves and I understand how he thinks. And he is not infallible by any means, and he makes big mistakes, but he's quite clever in ways. One of the things to remember about him is that he wrote a book called The Art of the Deal. I read excerpts, not the whole book. Now, he will refer back to that in his own mind. But you must remember, things are rarely what they seem. Trump will not be seeking re-election in 4 years. He said that. He'll be too old anyway. But he will have a big input as to who is the Republican nominee. Right beside where I am making this video, way back years ago, my father, who was a mechanic and a farmer combined, and my mother was really the farmer. She used to do the dairy and that type of thing and look after us. And there was plenty of hard work around here, but we never minded. I just seemed to take to it like a duck to water. But anyway, my father got hurt when two lorries came together where he was working in gypsum industries and squashed his ribs. The poor man was in bad way for a long time. He got better. But when he was off, they needed someone to do the wheeling and dealing. Now, selling cattle wasn't too bad. You go into the mart and you show them there, and they'd be good enough cattle, and everyone would bid on them. So it wasn't easy for the dealers to beat you there. But when it went to buying, it was. The dealers wanted every lad like us, everyone like us. They wanted us to pick one of them. In other words, they wanted my father and me, as the young lad coming on, to team up with a dealer. And we didn't want that, because that'd mean that you might tell the dealer, I want 2 bullocks, and he'd buy 2 roughly as what he wants, and that does work. That does work quite a lot. But the trouble was, excuse me, the trouble was, you'd end up then that you'd be maybe in the month of April, they'd land out with 3 bullocks here, and 2 of them would be good and the other one mightn't. 3 stores. And we didn't want to let them in on us like that. And they'd actually let them out in the field and meet you later. And you had to pay them. Like, it was a kind of understood thing that if they left you cattle, you'd pay for them. Anyway, I wanted to be the dealer myself. And I had a reasonable idea of what good cattle was. Because in my area, the neighbours had bulls. And those bulls would be all sort of purebred Hereford bulls. And they'd be quite good. The cattle bred of them would be quite good. But 90% of cattle in the mart and in the country were poor quality, very poor quality. In any event, this particular time he got hurt, and I had went in and bought a calf. I gave you the story how I bought the calf. I bought the lively calf and got him a good value. But then I had to buy a few other stores, and the type I wanted was like our own, and I knew roughly what they'd be glad to see me coming home with. But I was in at the ring anyway, and I had been warned by many good neighbours and relations of my family that jobbers will do you. They'll get their hand down in your pocket, they'll beat you no matter what you do, and they're out to get you. And the trouble is, there might be 1 or 2 half-decent dealers, and the rest of them wouldn't. I knew instances where dealers brought farmers' cattle to the factory, and they never got the invoice. What they got was a cheque. So maybe the cattle made 4,000. They got a cheque for 4,000. They never knew what the breakdown of the weights or anything was, and they had to get rid of those dealers. So anyway, there was a few of them anyway in my area saw me coming in, and they wanted to become my agent and to be buying and selling for me. And I didn't want that because of the nature of me, and you can see why. So I had to get a way to stop them beating me. So what had happened is, if you went in and you looked at 6 cattle and there come one good one, sorry, I still have the finger sore, there come one good one, and you bid on him, they would bid that beast up high to put you that you couldn't buy him, or that if you did buy him, he'd be very expensive. So that you would begin to say, well, was I not better dealing with the dealer than buying myself? So if you had to buy 3 and you went in and there come 30 that you wanted in, and you bid on the ones you wanted, they'd drive the price up. And sometimes they'd be bidding on their own. Some of them would own them. At that time there was no name up on the board. So sometimes they'd be bidding on their own. And then you got dealers would come in with cattle when the mart would be near open, fresh cattle off the grass, and expect you to buy them. And they'd be looking a lot better than the one that'd be there all morning. In any event, anyway, I conjured up at 15 years of age a way to deal with this. 15, 16. And what I began to do was I'd go down and check the cattle before they come in for sale. And there'd be some real yokes and there'd be some real bad ones. Maybe 4-year-old. You know, you'd want to have an idea of the age of an animal. If an animal is very old, well, he's been around a lot. I mean, you're not going to make much of him if he's already fully mature. You want to get them the right age. I buy them roughly about 16 months, 16 to 18 months, that kind of an age. Or you can go a bit extra ways. But nowadays, the date of birth is up on the board. But that time, it wasn't. So anyway, what I did was there'd come in some bad ones, and I'd start off. We'll say the average bad one is worth 120 euros. Pounds. Well, it was pounds that doesn't matter. So I knew that 120, if I bought him at 120 and brought him home, they wouldn't like him. They'd say he's not a good one, you know. And then there was another problem. Sometimes the dealers would put in a sick one in with maybe 3 good ones, and the sick one would die. There was your profit gone. So anyway, what I'd do is, the beast is worth 120. The minute he'd come in, you know, at a mart and at an auction, people kind of bid secretly. They stare at the auctioneer. They'll just look at and they kind of won't move at all. They want it all to be secret. Now this has changed a bit now with the internet bidding, but they want it all to be secret. And so, but I did the opposite. I come in, 70, seductious, 70 and bid, 70, 75. And the boys would think I was anxious to buy the beast, and I didn't want the beast at all. And I'd bid 7, they'd go 75, 80, 85, 90, 95, 100. And I'd just stop. And now they'd be left with them. The beast was gone, it's near its value, and nobody else wanted them. So I was upsetting their apple cart. But on one particular day, and I made this before, this jobber that I knew was a bit of a trickster, decent enough, but a trickster. He'd fool you up to your 2 eyes. He had this one in, and I could see he was quite an old black white-head bullock, and his hair was going way down near the ground. He was one of them Highland type things, but he looked a bit old as well, so he wasn't for me. Let's say he was worth 120. You'd keep him a long time to make 150 out of him, and he mightn't make it at all. So anyway, and at that time there was no inflation like now. The prices were relatively stable. So anyway, the minute he came in, I bid 70, and they were 80, 90, 20, and I could see a man behind him in the background of the corner of my eye, and I know that either him or someone else was bidding on him. He was actually bidding on the beast, his own beast. So I went to 100, I was risky, and I went to 105, 110, 115, and he went to 120, and I stopped and I walked out on the street. So he was stuck with the beast. It was marked down to him at 100 and whatever price. I'm after saying they're 115, 120. And he come running out after me to get me to buy the animal. And I said, I'm after making a bloody idiot out of you. I know well what you're at. I said, you bought your beast, you keep him. You were trying to drive him up on me and put me out. I'm going to buy my own cattle, and you get out of my way. He was as thick as a bull. And this word went round the other dealers, and they didn't like it either. So you can see the way I thought. Not many young fellas would think like that. Now, getting back to Trump. Trump wrote a book called The Art of the Deal. And there is a certain amount of confidence tricks in all good dealers and all good wheeling and dealing. It's a science on its own. And actually part of it, negotiation, is part of a course I did one time. But he did this. So what he's doing at the moment is he's throwing everybody off. The first thing every experienced commentator says about Trump is he's unpredictable. And that's because he does not say what he intends doing. He says something entirely different. And this idea of taking over Greenland and Canada and Mexico, as I said, it's half kidding or it's half cutting whole in earnest. There's a wee bit of that in it, but it's also to upscuttle the whole world, that none of them will know what they're doing. And that is the best strategy, because once you shake the tree, the monkeys are up. You don't know what will fall out. And it's like my campaigning against these windmills and all that. Part of it is to try and stop them and help people and all that. But it's also trying to upset them and make liars out of them and make them look stupid. And you see the Greens went down from 12 seats to 11 in the last election. Now, maybe I played a small part in that, you wouldn't know. But it's all a bit of wheels within wheels, and it's all a bit of trickery. Trump has plans, and some of them will be outlined, and certainly I believe I've tweaked the underlying trend, and that is that if Europe wants to stay with America, they're going to have to eat a lot of humble pie. They're going to have to throw the green woke agenda out the window. Whether they will or not, I doubt it. But if they don't, he'll just let them drift off. They're a boat tied up to the American ship, and he can just let them drift. He doesn't have to cut the rope around, just let them drift off. And that's the plan. And they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to deal with it, and this is driving them out of the tree. Do you understand that? What he will actually do, he definitely will drill, baby, drill. He'll definitely throw the whole climate malarkey cod balls out the window. I see there's some big crowd of experts said today last year was the hottest year on record. That is an lie. That's a lie, and YouTube now can print their thing underneath and all of that, saying it's not a lie, but I'm telling you it is a lie. And the other thing Trump, I think he will do, and I think this is true, he's going to pull America out of the World Health Organization. He realizes they're a scam. So now for YouTube with their algorithm, and they hear the WHO, they can now post a thing underneath here and say, oh, the world says there is 2 degrees climate, and the World Health Organization says COVID is this and that and the other, which it was a dangerous disease. I'm not denying that. They can print all that, but they won't bully the Donald. Zuckerberg has already knuckled down and reined in his censorship. He banned me for a long time. I get no compensation for that. That's not right. And a lot of the wokes are pulling in the horns and having to eat humble pie because they know Trump is going to take no messing. Is he a bully? That's the allegation was made to me by a friend of mine. He's a bully. I don't think there's anything wrong with a good bully. With a good bully. If I see two boys fighting, and one of them's a nice little fella, a little quiet lad, and the other lad's a big lump of a lad, and I know he's from a rough crowd, and he's thumping the young lad, I'll go in and stop him. He'll probably say, you're bullying or getting involved in our thing. No, I will get involved. And one of the things that's very, very popular in Ireland is mind your own business. Just mind your own business, that's the way to go. Well, I'm the opposite. I will not mind my own business. I'll mind my own business, but I'll mind most people's business as well. Well, not the ordinary family or family rows or anything like that, but I'll mind other people's business if it affects me, and wind them up and let them hate me as much as they possibly can. I'll just finish on this. Years ago, I had an old friend, a hunting friend, a great hunter. And he lived not too far from here, and he always had a great dog, and I loved hunting out with an old single barrel gun and shooting the odd pheasant and the odd woodcock, and he would pluck them and eat them. He kind of lived off them, so he wasn't just throwing them out, but he was a hunter anyway, and he's long dead now. But he had a habit when he came up to a house of shouting. So we'd be out in the country now, we'd say, my house is just there, and I might be in there maybe fixing a door or something, and he'd come down here, and next thing you'd hear, good man, Martin! And he'd come out, oh, good man, how are you? Well, how's it? Or he might come down and say, good man, McDermott, to me neighbour. Or he might go over somewhere else, good man, Lynch, how's things? And he'd shout before he'd come. And I asked him once, why do you do that? Most people come snaking up, come sneaking up, and nice and quiet. And he says, I'll tell you, why are we out walking around here? We're out to hunt. And what do we need to hunt? He says, well, I says, a gun and a dog. Well, we also need to keep the farmers on our side. We also need to be a bit, that they won't be putting us out or giving us dirty looks. We want to keep them on our side and saying we're going around having a bit of sport on the country. That's right, that we need to keep them on side. There'd be a few people who wouldn't let you in and we'd go in pooching there, but most people didn't mind having a bit of a hunt around. And I was wired to the moon on hunting. I loved it. It was like fishing to people as well. So anyway, the thing about it is, he says, the reason I shout is our job is to keep the goodwill of the people and the farmers, but it's not to sneak on their business. If we go up nicely and keep quiet and keep our ears peeled, there could be a dirty, rotten domestic dispute going in at that house. There could be shouts and roars and bawls. He could be baiting the daylights out of the wife, or she could be baiting the daylights out of him, or the two of them could be baiting the daylights out of the kids, or the kids could be baiting the daylights out of the granny, or them. That's nothing to do with us, he says. Our job is to get the goodwill to hunt. It's not to spy on people. And it has happened to me several times. I'd be doing a job and I'd be humming along and people would come up behind me and they'd never introduce themselves. And I have told people, if you do that again, I'll give you a batch of the shovel across the head. And they say, what are you on about? You don't sneak up on me because I'll draw the shovel and I'll take the head clean off you. Don't do it again. You speak when you're down there and shout at me. But you see the psychology. We had the name among the landowners of the countryside of not being nosy and wanting to know their business. They knew we were there to hunt. We weren't there to sneak up on their business or to become privy to their private affairs. And that got us a lot more hunting. So you see the psychology involved. So with the bowl Donald Trump, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of disorientation. And you imagine how easy it is to disorientate our Simon Harris, a dope Taoiseach Prime Minister in Dublin, Micheál Martin, another dope Fianna Fáil lad looking to be Prime Minister, and Mary on the Lou MacDonald, oh my God, a dope as well. They're all dopes. Macron is a dope, Starmer's a dope, and the whole German Schulz and all of them, they're all dopes, and he knows they're all dopes. He'll wrap his finger around them, no problem, and he'll have fun doing it. And it's my job to analyse his moves. Having studied the man big time, it's my job to bring that to you, what I think. Somebody did post underneath to think that he has a heart. I don't think he's going to want to kill. I don't think that. I'd be very disappointed if he turns out to be a killer. Like Joe Biden was a killer, Kamala Harris was a killer, serial killer, and Barack Obama was a serial killer. They were all killers. Jimmy Carter, maybe not, but most of them were killers anyway. But I don't think Trump is. That's my reading of him. And that's the best I can do as we await his inauguration and all that's going on. Chat underneath, and I'll try and deal with some of the points you've made more as well. Good luck. Thank you.